To all School of Communication Unika Atmajaya students, please rename for identification, name, strip full name. I repeat, to all School of Communication Unika Atmajaya students, please rename for identification, name, strip full name. Thank you.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the International Conference on Corporate and Marketing Communication 2021 in collaboration with Hidesi.
Continuing today's agenda, let us listen to remarks delivered by the Rector of Atmajaya Catholic University of Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Agustinus Prasetyantoko.
Thank you very much, Grace and the Reals. Good afternoon and welcome to Atmajaya for honorable speakers, participants, organizers, and students. On behalf of Atmajaya Catholic University, I would like to once again welcome you all in this conference. I would like also extend our gratitude to the speakers, invited speaker from various countries. Also, thank you for the organizer of the International Conference on Corporate Communication and Marketing Communication 2021 in collaboration between School of Communication Atmajaya Catholic University and Hidesi, Himpunan Dosen Etika seluruh Indonesia. The topics or the themes of this year conference is managing issues in human communication today. I think this topic is very relevant with recent situations, first of all because of the Industrial Revolution 4.0, but also or especially due to the pandemics. So these double disruptions create some kind of radical uncertainty in the futures for humanity as well as for society, organization, and also individual in individual levels. So the futures is something that we don't know right now, and for this reason, I think we have here have to proactively or actively to also create the futures, not only passively receive the future, but also creating the futures. It's a process of co-creation, and at that reason, communication play an important role. So I think this topic will be important on the recent debate. The objective of this conference is, among others, provide updated research and enhanced practices in the field of marketing and communication, corporate communications. And as an academic institution at Atmajaya Catholic University, I think we have to concern on that issues. Research and knowledge production is really the core of this institution. So for that, I would like to emphasize that this is the very challenging times and the future is very uncertain. There is a radical uncertainty. And there's a huge field of research also. So once again, thank you very much for all parties who support this initiative, this conference. And I wish you have a wonderful conference until the end. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Agustinus Pathetiantoko, for the remarks. Now we would like to hold a photo session. We would like to invite the conference chair report, the chairman of Hidesi, Dean of ICCOMAC, head of School of Communication, speakers, presenters, and all participants to turn on the cameras and welcome to take a position. The photo session will be guided by Madam Dian Skaring or Mr. Sanzo and I. Allow me to guide the photo session. There will be several slides, so we will start with the first one. Mr. Sanzo?
Yeah,
Are we
okay.
ready? All right. Starting off with the first slide, yes? All right. 1, 2, 3, smile. All right, for the second slide. 1, 2, 3, smile. All right, for the third slide. 1, 2, 3, smile. Fourth slides. 1, 2, 3, smile. For the fifth slide. 1, 2, 3. All right, the sixth slide. 1, 2, 3. Now for the seventh slide. 1, 2, 3. The eighth slide. 1, 2, 3. All right, and last but not least, the last slide. Smile. 1, 2, 3. All right, thank you, Mr. Sanso.
Ladies and gentlemen, right now we are going to dive into the plenary sessions, which will be moderated by Dr. Satria Kusuma Fajar Mahardika, MSE. Dr. Satria is a communication practitioner in the field of radio and television broadcasting and reporting, event organizer management, and master of ceremonies with 10 years of experience in the media. He is also a lecturer in communication studies major in Atmajaya Catholic University of Indonesia. He took his doctoral degree for Komunikasi Pembangunan Institut Pertanian Bogor in 2021, Master degree for Manajemen Komunikasi Universitas Negeri 11 Maret Surakarta in 2008, Bachelor degree for Ilmu Komunikasi Universitas Negeri 11 Maret Surakarta in 2004, and Diploma for Broadcasting Universitas Negeri 11 Maret Surakarta in 2002. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Satria Kusuma Fajar Mahardika, MSE.
Thank you, Aurelia and Daniel. Good afternoon, the Honorable Rector of Atmajaya Catholic University of Indonesia, Dr. Prastiantoko, Dean of ICCOMAC, Dr. Eko Widodo, Chairman of Hidesi, Dr. Alexander Seran, MA, Conference Chair, Dr. Nia Sarinasti, TMA, Head of School of Communication, Dr. Dorin Kartikawangi, all participants and students. Welcome to plenary session of the 6th International Conference of Corporate and Marketing Communication, ICCOMAC 2021, in collaboration with Hidesi 2021 conference with the theme Managing Issues in Human Communication Today. Understand how communication fields are affected by current changes due to various issues such as pandemic crisis and technology to manage recent trust and credibility. Conduct discussion on how have organization and media been affected by this innovation and what has shifted regarding ethics and corporate values. I would like to introduce 5 panelists that we have today. The first panelist comes from Dr. Rahtika Diana, MSc. Dr. Rahtika is a lecturer at Sekolah Pasca Sarjana Sahid University, founder of Beyond Borders Indonesia, assistant head of doctoral program in communication science, graduate school of Sahid University, consultant for Ministry of Tourism, expert team for reviewing on law of the Republic of Indonesia of concerning tourism. Dr. Rahtika, the time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Satria. So,
Correct.
Good afternoon, everyone. Sorry, I have to share this. Okay. Yep, so everybody can see it now?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So today I would like to talk about digital dilemma about ethics, social media, and cyberbullying. While I was watching this TED Talks, I don't know, maybe Mr. Satria, you know her, Monica Lewinsky. So while I was watching her TED Talks about the price of shame on YouTube, I was compelled to rethink the invasions of information and communication technology in our lives. The human race and technology are becoming almost inseparable as we enter increasingly advanced civilization, where using technology is becoming second nature of human. So during the talk, Ms. Lewinsky was going through examples, including her own story, and how cyberbullying affected people around the world. So maybe we don't realize that to some extent, we also contributed to cyberbullying if it's not directly. So in this presentation, I will discuss more about how technology can destroy human life mentally, how cyberbullying affected people around the world, and I will raise the issue this issue on cyberbullying using Monica Lewinsky in her brave talk about her own story in 1998. So I hope everybody in 1998 is already born. So this is about her affair with Bill Clinton, the President of the United States of America. So he said that, sorry. So I quote from her, Monica Lewinsky says, I was patient zero of losing a personal reputation on a global scale almost instantaneously, recalling the tragedies she's been through at that time. In 1998, I lost my reputation and my dignity. I lost my sense of self. When this happened to me 17 years ago, there was no name for it. Now we call it cyberbullying. So this is we talk about the Monica Lewinsky affair and how people around the world talking about her. So now I'm going to explain a little bit about cyberbullying. There are several definitions of cyberbullying, and I choose a few among them. First, from Gladden, he said that bullying is any unwanted aggressive behavior by another youth or group of youths who are not siblings or current dating partners that involves an observed or perceived power imbalance and is repeated multiple times or is highly likely to be repeated, Bullying might inflict harm or distress on the targeted youth, including physical, psychological, social, or educational harm. Digital-level organizations, UK's leading anti-bullying charities, also define cyberbullying as the use of digital technologies with an intent to often humiliate, threaten, harass, or abuse somebody. So there are several types of cyberbullying, but these are the common types that happens in social media nowadays. First is the harassment. Involves the bully sending offensive and malicious message to an individual or a group, and is often repeated multiple times. So we talk about cyber talking, one form of harassment that involves continual threatening and rude messages and can lead to physical harassment in the real offline world. Flaming is a similar to harassment. It is a type of public bullying that often direct harsh language or image to a specific person. Exclusions is the act of intentionally singling out and leaving a person out from an online group such as chats and sites. The group then subsequently leave malicious comment and harass the one they single out. So this is often happened to us through our WhatsApp group when they talk about us in another group chat. Then there's another form of cyberbullying. Outing is when a bully shares personal and private information, pictures or videos about someone publicly. A person is outed when his information has been disseminated through the internet. And finally is masquerading, where the situations where a bully creates a fake identity to harass someone anonymously. In addition to creating a fake identity, the bully can impersonate someone else to send malicious message to the victim. So this, the common types of cyberbullying happen to us. Maybe some of us don't know the terminology for it, but I think we all now that, oh, I think we know this kind of cyberbullying. Media social Instagram is the highest trigger for cyberbullying. So this is according to a survey by digital-level organizations in the UK. The study shows that the 42% of media users use the Instagram social media is some trigger for cyberbullying. And the second one is Facebook, 37%, Snapchat, WhatsApp, YouTube, Twitter, 9%. So as you know that we are Indonesia, Instagram is also the most users. Everybody using Instagram. I think all of us here, maybe most of us here, using Instagrams. So this is the fact that it is the highest trigger for cyberbullying. So how about in Indonesia? Indonesia people are certainly no strangers to using technology, especially social media. In September 2020, active social media users in Indonesia reached 60 million. Sorry. Or 60 million. So this one, sorry. 160 million or 59% of Indonesia total population of 272.1 million people. So half of Indonesian people, almost half of us using media social. And the most used social active, the most actively used social media platforms here in the picture on the right is YouTube, still the highest, and then WhatsApp, Instagram. And also you can see in the pictures that the number of TikTok users has increased. So now I think TikTok is the leading media social in Indonesia. And this is the survey from Microsoft. from Microsoft about Digital Civilization Index. So it is where it gets serious because based on the survey in this 2020, Indonesia, which is known for its amazingly kind people, show the opposite on social media, evident with the spread of fake news, hate speech, cyberbullying, or even fraud. So Indonesia has the worst digital civilization index in Southeast Asia. It's you see that in Indonesia is the lowest. So before Indonesia, Vietnam. So this is how Indonesian people using social media. In the picture on the right, the Microsoft survey noted that 47% of respondents has been involved in cyberbullying, and 19% even said they had been the target of cyberbullying. The group most exposed to bullying on the internet is the millennial groups. It's 54%. Those born in 1981, I think, to 1996, and then followed by Generation Z, born in 1997 to 2010. And finally, the baby boomers are those born between 1945 around to 1960 something. So this is our real life, yeah, that although superior to several countries, Indonesia remains the country with the worst level of civilization in Southeast Asia. So what does the data shows us? The increase of social media users also provide opportunities for people to take negative actions. There's a gulf between how we behave online and how we behave online. So this is described by Professor Nicolaus Mills of Sarah Lawrence College. He coined the phrase of a culture of humiliations. So she defined the shifting values in our society caused by distancing effect of a screen and depersonalization on the internet. And in her TED Talks, Monica Lewinsky said that what we are experiencing now is a marketplace that has emerged where public humiliation is a commodity and shame is an industry. So how is the money clicked? How is the money made? Clicks. The more shame, the more clicks. The more clicks, the more advertising dollars. We are in a dangerous cycles. The more we click on this kind of gossip, the more numb we get to the human lives behind it. And the more numb we get, the more we click. And she also said that we are now in a situation where there is a compassion deficit. He said that, but we will talk about this later. And after Monica Lewinsky said that, so how does we feel about this? How we talk about our experience using social media when everything around us, we love bad news, we love talking about others people negatively, and how do we supposed to do, what kind of culture we have here right now. So this is the central issue. We talk about the digital ethics, the ethics of the digital media, where because we are in situations where everything is changing fast, so there is a presence of moral panics. And then the most important I would like to talk about is the global ethic issues, where there are different ethical boundaries between Eastern and Western traditions, the issue of privacy, different perception in different culture. Issues such as privacy, of course, will be translated according to the cultural values they have. And until now, we're not clear yet how to regulate our behavior in cyberspace. So another concept is about digital ethics was put forward by Patrick Lee-Plaisant, who offered the neo-Aristotelian Philippa Foot ethical concept of virtue in communicating and interacting on social media. This theory contains normative aspects that can be used to build ethical standards for digital media. Food relates the conditions of human development and objective reason for acting morally, and provides a framework for digital media ethics in 3 categories: virtually and authenticity, privacy and autonomy, and exchange and discourse. However, food doesn't suggest a rigid ethics, but conforms to the various conditions necessary for human development. Okay, next, after we talk about the digital ethics, I would like to introduce you to this theory. Because of Monica Lewinsky, I know about this person, Brené Brown. She's a sociologist and she writes a lot of books. And I'm very interested in Brené Brown's ideas about dealing with cyberbullying. She has spent the past 10 years studying vulnerability, courage, authenticity, and shame. And then Brand spent the first 5 years of her decade-long study focusing on shame and empathy. So according to Brené Brown, empathy and shame are on opposite ends of a continuum. Shame results in fear, blame, or self or others, and disconnection, while empathy is cultivated by courage, compassion, and connection, and it is the most powerful antidote to shame. So the main idea behind this shame resilience theory is how to avoid feeling trapped, powerless, or isolated in the face of feeling of shame. A goal of shame resilience is to help those who feel shame feel empty, connections, power, and freedom. So to conclude, I would like to summarize my presentation today about that cyberbullying is a mental abuse and affect the victims psychologically and mentally severely. There are so many studies that show strong relationship between cyberbullying and suicidal behavior. And then I would like to talk the importance of ethical foundation in cyberspace and how to regulate behavior online. So here I'm not saying about normative regulations such as Undang-Undang ITE, but the virtues of human being, the idea of compassion and empathy, like the theory introduced by Brené Brown, how the compassion and empathy is to deal with cyberbullying and other forms of online harassment. So I think it's the act of humanity that we should teach those things to our children and younger generations. To end my presentations, I would like to share this is my favorite quote of Monica Lewinsky. We talk a lot about our right to freedom of expressions, but we need to talk more about our responsibility to freedom of expressions. We all want to be heard, but let's acknowledge the difference between speaking up with intentions and speaking up for attentions. So finally, thank you for giving me the opportunity to present my perspective on these issues, a very interesting issues, media and digital ethics. I believe that they are far from perfect, but I'm very open to your suggestions and opinions. So thanks again. I would like to get back to Mr. Satria. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Ratika Diana, for sharing about digital dilemmas, ethics, social media, and cyberbullying. Dr. Ratika stated it is very appropriate that the Ministry of Communication and Information, through the National Digital Literacy Movement, contains the concept of digital ethics. Digital literacy is not just a set of abilities and skills possessed by individuals, but also critical skills in receiving, processing, and giving meaning to social media information or text. The low level of digital literacy among millennials is vulnerable to information that can harm the surrounding environment. Okay, all participants, the second panelist is Dr. Andes Ahmad Karis Zubair, MA. Bapak Ahmad Karis Zubair is a senior member and has participated in guarding the establishment of Hidesi, also budayawan, Deputy Secretary of the Tarji Council and the development of Islamic thought of PP Muhammadiyah, Head of the Department of Culture ITSMI, Orwil Daerah Istimewa Yogyakarta, General Chairperson of Kagama Philosophy, Gajah Mada University, Cultural Heritage Preservation Award from the Governor of Daerah Istimewa Yogyakarta, the 20th Satya Karya Badge from the President of the Republic of Indonesia, writes various books and journals on philosophy and ethics and culture. Bapak Ahmad Karis Zubair, the time is yours. I'm sorry, Bapak Ahmad, mic is mute. Can you exit? Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, moderator, and also thanks for Atmajaya University and also ICCOMAC and Hidesi has been invited me to participate in international seminar today. I will give presentation about culture and ethics in the digital era. Prologue. At the end of the 20th century and at the beginning of the 21st century, there was the phenomenon of postmodernism and post-truth era. In the second decade of the 21st century, the COVID-19 pandemic occurred throughout the world. In my opinion, all this phenomena remind of people to realize the forgotten basic values of humanity. It is a human nature that we are socializing and communicating with each other. Humans cannot live separately from other human communication. Communication is the medium of human connection. Through communication, people are connecting each other, sharing tools and information, and even building the sense of solidarity. Communication is essential part in human interaction. By communication, people are gaining trust with each other. But trust is also needed to build effective and prolonged communication. The loss of trust because of problems such as conflict, safety, or hope is the beginning of the broken relationship and communication. The need of information and communication is basic and universal needs in every human history and generation. And as I stated in Mahabharata epic story, Turna, who is a Kurawa, becomes the commander in Bharata Yuddha war, was able to break the Pandavas' defensive forces. This led to Krishna's firmness that if Durna continues to lead the Kauravas, soon Pandava will soon lose the battle. Krishna, knowing that the weakness of Durna was that he is too in love with his son Ashwatthama. Another comment, Bhima has asked to kill the elephant troops in war. Istitama that had similar name and rhyme with Ashwatthama. When the poor elephant was killed, Pandava troops have announced that Istitama had died in the hand of Bhima. The death of Ikitama was heard among Kurawa troops. However, it is said the same way with Aswatama. Some Kurawa heard that Aswatama, who had served in the battle with Bhima, at the end the news had finally been heard by Durga. From the aspect of the epic Mahabharata, above even the ones that considered as the most honest option, which is Pandawa, used hope as a part of strategy to win the battle. And now, information, technology, and communication in the digital era. We are now living in the digital age where technology is getting more sophisticated, mainly in communication technology, information and transportation. This kind of technologies are significantly increasing pace and of time and speed in our society. Satellite technology, optical fiber network, computerization are combinations that create information technology and digital world. Humans now can get the access to information just from their homes through gadgets and internet connection. Marshall McLuhan of this situation as global condition where humans are getting more individualistic. We prefer to protect their private and individual lives, rather to socialize. Humans are more liberalized with respect to the freedom and humanism with the anthropocentrism nature where humans are central of everything. Capitalism, not just as economic system, but also political system, way of life and lifestyle that really believes in market mechanism. It creates cosmopolitan lifestyle and dealing as global citizenship rather to the sense of belonging as a part of nation community. This significant changes in technology, capitalism, and lifestyle has also changed the way people look at their own norms and values. Positivism, liberalism, and capitalism lead to secularism that all has brought into both positive and negative consequences, has changed moral values, way of life, and overall human behavior. Digital human in the post-truth era. I stated Budi Hartiman in his book, when populations are more caring to their presence to physical circumstances, the imperative of digital work has started to become the daily rule, and people's behavior has also been changing. The people are supposed to treat other humans. Now people are sparing their faith to their phones, feeling they are free from digital work in this era. People are afraid to stay at the face of other humans, as the penalty of cancel is when they don't like it, as happened in their home. The question has involved our awareness. Now we raise questions. When our communication has shifted into digital form, as society still be expensive, Are human freedom enough when they are driven by technology or from form of artificial intelligence? What is the meaning of intersubjectivity when technology is subjectified? How we explain about body and knowledge, including the concept of mortality, when the electronic chip has been attached to human brain and it directly created communication with the machine. As a rational creature, can human brain still in function when it has changed with artificial intelligence? Our situation can be more complicated when the facilitation of information and communication technology are interlinked with the era of so-called post-truth. Generally, it's defined as the era when people and society are more reliant on the available information without cross-checking or confirming which one is the true and which one is false information. Gadget through its button of copy, paste, and share has facilitated it. Post-truth is our current phenomenon as the pattern of the era where people have not enough reflection and truth to the truth of information. The pace and speed to share and spread are more important than different. Our society tends to believe in misleading information, hope without checking its truth to other sources. This situation has been used by those who are getting benefit from false and misleading information to get what they want. When the society has tolerated hope and false information, we are about the questioning the truth of information now. In one side, people are more aware, but in the other side, we can be more tolerant and permissive to the hope in our communication system. The word scenario is when the truth is apparently believed as the result of crafting and creation. So which one is true and which one is false is getting blue. However, through this paper, I will show that the fact that we cannot really distinguish and differ between truth and false, I think is sometimes not really quite clear. In the human history, people are often using tactics and strategies, using wrong information to gain their own interest, like Mahabharata is, for instance. In every life of human life, from the level of family, neighborhood, and community, even until the nation state level, we need honesty as the basic moral value to conduct life in harmony. However, we also know that in specific emergency situations, the concept of honesty can still be debatable. In the field of ethics, it is called relativism. There are three types of morality relativism. First is normative relativism. Humans have often involved in the situation that meet commitment to keep confidentiality of the matter due to the protection to something or someone. For instance, trade confidential documents, etc. It needs strong ethical commitment to keep things in high level of confidentiality, and it is trained in the dimension of professional ethics, job ethics, etc. Second is a cultural relativism. Every culture has its own way to see things. The dimension of correctness can vary among societies and cultures, and it is all valid in the sense, etc. To impose one way of life as more correct or more valid than others can lead to bigger conflict and social disintegration, harmonious society. Third is meta-ethic relativism. Meta-ethic relativism is ethic relativism as the result of similarity and commonness among social groups or communities. It is possibly contra with the universal ethical values, but accepted as ethical in certain groups that have some value. The situation can be tricky when hoax and disinformation has been shared by somebody or some people that has something in common, can be religion, spiritualities, and ideologies with their audience. In post-truth era, social relation has been replaced by socialization through social media. Socialization through social media has now impacted to many aspects of life, individual, social, community, and nation state. Through social media, the boundaries between social and private life is less distinguished. Social media gives positive impact in creating new market systems as sharing economy. For example, many small and medium entrepreneurs are accessing markets better through the platform of sharing economy, such as Gojek, Grab, Tokopedia, or Shopee, etc. Marketplaces are getting bigger, and doing online business is becoming new opportunities for many people. Even in education, particularly when especially COVID-19 pandemic has hit, online education is becoming option and solution for long distance education, such as through Zoom or Google Meet platform. However, despite its opportunities, risks, and challenges are like the other side of coin. On the other hand, the usage of social media can be counterproductive when hoax and disinformation are dominating this free space. Hoax, fake news, false news are more common and bring the destructive report when it spreads hate speech, hate threats, or politics of identity, especially when this kind of news are becoming viral among social media users. Thus, the post-truth phenomenon needs to be anticipated before it can be growing as a tool to disintegrate and polarize groups and even trigger bigger conflict among society. The growing of identity politics, especially that using the religious, ethnic, and specific groups sentiment can potentially lead to the damage of social cohesion in our living as one nation. We must aware that the political events such as general election that has been done earlier this year in our country, has created conflict and contestation among groups of supporters. And it is various that the election can finally be successfully held in peaceful and in democratic manner. The post-truth phenomena can be very disturbing when news and information are played by certain groups to frame their own narration and public opinion. Their narration has been crafted by the rampant using of fake news and hoax that can degrade and even destroy the meaning of truth and honesty. Thus, post-truth has more aim to find the justification rather to find the real truth and connection. Epilogue. The truth and hope are like two sides of coin that we can always find in our life and our living. To be honest or dishonest is human consciousness choice. We can always choose to be angels or demons. In the post-truth era, truth is no longer based on universal morality, but more as public and political correctness. As long as it is supported by a big number of people, we often see it is as truth, no matter how far is that from truth itself. In post-truth digital society, truth is creation of interest, needs, will to power, philosophy and ethics, as the mother of knowledge should reflective and radicalize itself to be holistically see the problem in the post-truth and working to build digital literacy among society. We are now ready to move from digital society 4.0 to 5.0. The problems in the future might be soaring, but we can always put the humanity above machinery and technology. The respect to human rights should be valued in order to create more humanistic technology. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bapak Dr. Andes Ahmad Karis Zubair, MA. Bapak Ahmad Karis stated that the truth and hoax are like two sides of coin that we can always find in our life. To be honest or dishonest is humans' consciousness choice. In the post-truth era, truth is no longer based on universal morality, but more as public and political correctness. As long as it is supported by a big number of people, we often see it's as truth, no matter how far is that from truth itself. In post-truth digital society, truth is creation of interest, need, will to power, philosophy as the mother of knowledge. So radicalize itself to be holistically, see the problems in the post-truth and working to build digital literacy among society. Well, all participants, the third panelist is Professor Dr. Carlos Antonio Villa Guzman. Professor Carlos is a professor and researcher at Political Studies Department of University of Guadalajara, member of the Consolidated Academic Body, Integration, Governance, and Development in Latin America and the Caribbean, registered with CONACYT. He has published various articles and books focused on social imaginaries, politics and electoral process. In addition, he has also published articles related to visual culture problems, history, geopolitics, archaeology, and more. He directs a multidisciplinary project of artificial intelligence and imaginary, electronic convergence of networks of voters, bank results and observation, or cerebral. Prof. Carlos, the time is yours. Excuse me, Prof. Carlos. The mic, your mic is still mute. Okay.
Hello, can you
Yeah.
hear me?
Yes. Okay.
Yes?
Please. Yes.
Okay. Nice to meet you. Hi, good day for everyone. Well, I wanna read my test. No? Representations and imaginaries. Well, this is the title. No? Well, this document reflects about digital communication effects that mark present era. We start from the idea that it's not possible to quickly understand phenomena that are shown in the humanity, just like this one in which we are immersed, and that for everything requires electronic devices that were handled with a medium digital culture. In other words, a different kind of knowledge for a different kind of a world that works with algorithms whose most recent result is virtual reality. We are based in three aspects that allow us an analytic synthesis of the most disturbing studying in contemporaneous societies. Number one, some ideas to understand digital dynamics. Number two, virtual works division, employers and employers, and system other war, exploitation, and competitiveness. Number three, judgment of matter in social DNA, transformation effects on small towns, political decisions. I especially want to thanks to the School of Communication on Atmajaya Catholic University of Indonesia and the Association of Indonesia Ethic Lectures, this honorable invitation to being with you this day. To begin the approach of some topics, I like to share what, in my perception, Indonesia means for the continent where I live. I can tell you with certainty that everything began there, or at least a large part of the most important for the world of ancestors of America. Civilization that contemplate us science that remotest of time tell us that we are same family. With the ocean in between, our ancestors lived without meeting each other again due the fate. Each one of them had a different story. There were encounters and agreements, domination, conquest, blood, crosses, cultural transformation, and finality, other identities that provide sense of belonging to millions of people that are looking forward, being solidary between each other and the world, even with current loss of a civilization that suddenly seems autodestructive because it darkens the exits to peace along with recognition among our races and people. This is the utopia that allows us to boil together, acknowledge just like we are doing this moment. Centuries after, we live in an age where begin civilization is almost equivalent to begin communicate, and that has effects. We have formed the most communicates societies in history. Nevertheless, that doesn't mean that they are the fairest. We will have to think about computer ethics so that the virtual tools that they communicate to us also achieve the most inclusive culture in history. I will not only talk about those of us who physically coincide in this time, but also of tones that preceded us by several centuries. A vision accompanied by technologies for time traveling can help us understand the world of the present in a different way. We won't see that on difference that we created from the brutal disagreements between cultures of distance and different origin are truly surmountable with another type of understanding. I could even be know that worlds that we're so playful because they hurt the deepest part of the human soul begin to heal. The same science that permits to travel into space offers to us the possibility to travel to the past. Notably, these adventures begin accomplished. I would like to make of you acknowledge that I am amazed because technology are tools that can connect us with that has been extended. It is possible to recreate past realities that to virtuality, which with we realize that time can be appreciated by a different way. Expert in digital programmation in my country concluded a three-dimensional work that recreated in all its exactly magnitude the city of Tenochtitlan. That was the antique capital of Mexica Empire, controlled by the Aztecas, migrant tribe that dominates for more than 2 centuries what we call Mesoamerica, which covers almost the entire Mexican territory. The city was built from an islet that was in the lakes of a huge valley surrounded by volcanoes at an altitude of about 2,600 meters above sea level. That is why glaciers form on nearby peaks that exceed 6,000 meters. The best now are Ixtaccíhuatl and the Popocatépetl, active volcano of neovolcanic axis associated with the belt of fire that extends from the Pacific Ocean to Oceania, land of volcanoes just like Mexico. Perhaps that's why we who inhabit these regions of the planet have so much internal fire and sometimes we are unpredictable. The work shows the revolt and until the very last details, it was finished destroying in August 1521 at the hands of the Spanish and their Tlaxcaltecas alliance, along with other people that raised it against their former Aztecas masters. I hope I can come back one day to talk about the outcome of that war in addition to what happened in the 300 years of life of that viceroyalty of New Spain that had until in 1810 began in the War of Independence. As of now, I'm sharing with you something that most likely has access to all the internet users for you to see it. It was digitally recreated a city that disappeared 5 centuries ago. Of course, they served as foundation for this job the ruins that had been found in the subsoil of Mexico City, from monoliths to part of the structure of the Templo Mayor of the Aztecas. All this is an addition to the aspect studies that they interpreted the materials with which they managed to determine the futures that the city had. The squares with gardens and there's canals were the inevitable travelers in different boats according to their uses. If was a huge lake metropolis, perhaps one of the most popular in the world in those years, also impregnable for being basically in the middle of the water. At that we can see us if this were real. Every ancient city can be equally rebuilt with technologies that bring it back to our eyes. Tenochtitlan is once again recognizable, and same thing can happen to Babylon, Roma, Alexandria, Troya, Thebes, Athens, or other metropolis of any era. It's enough if you have enough information to fill the electronics brains who will carry on the process of projecting three-dimensional images that precisely reproduce those spaces that belong to societies that centuries ago stopped being. Why I am talking about all this? We may think that those discoveries and high-tech innovation have become so far advanced that for every fast automation is sought even to think. As we live, robotic machines reveal to us and achieve for us that they decide we want. This also represents a huge danger, a threat that is widely analyzed because it is artificial intelligence whose power can turn against our species. It sounds fatalist, maybe something fantastic, but it is not a game or something that can be taken lightly. This is one of the more important debates today, so we should be concerned. Intelligence machines resolve our lives in practical sense since while constructing the threats if they are seen in another way. It happens the very same with that way with what they motivate us to think or not think. That invites us to romp somehow entertainment in the web. This equals to say that time accumulated by people who surfaces or perform anyone who engages in other activities in person. In other words, they remote control us the time that is considered proper, but that is it. They also can or test it along with our personality. As of now, there are products that have more value because they bring they home that the product itself. In some cases, we give almost the same importance to spending on shopping, choosing, and buying that what we purchase, dealing with the millions of trinket objects that get left behind because they are not necessary. We were seducing by advertising added to happiness of obtaining them. We just dial some digits in the mobile phone. Internet purchase already exists direct purchase in a large part of products and services, from travel reservation to household items, as well as clothes, vehicles, and cloud countries merchandises. Companies like Amazon or Mercado Libre increases their assets every day in addition to creating new firms being constituting daily to market on network. What kind of world is this one that cannot be seen, not forced, but reproduces like if it was a cosmos? The millions of transactions that are effectuated every minute without shopping, they cannot be advised, but they exist. This phenomenon detaches at the same time it borrows from the material world. It is almost all made in an invisible manner. Instead of shopping center, a suitable place for excellence for meeting and consume that worked, it resent capitalist societies. Now it decides to shop online. We now see those semi-empty places, and most likely even some of them will eventually disappear. For this part, world division in virtual world has heritages millions of users without counting here the isolated, disconnected, the invisibles, among others that make crowns of subjects that are finally out of grammatics that is utilized for driving in the highways or of internet. For this, unprotected majorities up to the vaccines against COVID-19 because they are not at the level of capitalist priorities. It does not exist more than exploitation of this work strength and with certain very visibly limits politics as its one only exists to its social condition of the poor, which is transmitted for generations. We see in the each technological innovation a factor that leaves unemployed individuals that uses to do the job that was replaced by answering machines, electronic eyes, and countless of robots that perform all kinds of functions. The information that these machines handle only to make market economy work overpass any other utilized by humanity throughout all story. Shopping and at any part of the world has speed up. For being begin so easy to perform novelties, user cognitive capacities have not increased. At least there is not indication that can demonstrate it. In that orders of ideas, you are no longer an individual by what is now or by the values like ethics, but for what if is communicated and can be understood by others. Being that said, the interaction fields where social media built the new communicative paradigm, and soon they will take another technological jump with the bet of the digital giants in the metaverse operate in 5G. We'll have then an alternative universe, a parallel world that will be interacting with other avatars that will be like our other self. Concerning government, power is measured by the capacity of communicating messages, especially in the exact representations by being shared algorithmically. Speaking of truly virtual bits that are looking forwards to convincing what is desired from others to do. Representations that are constantly appearing in the massive media such as social media, journals, and televisions affect training and change of people imaginaries. And thanks to that, they are so powerful. Girola 2019. Barack Obama campaign in the United States in 2008 inaugurated the new era in which politicians were looking after to win followers through social media, especially via Facebook. It is of importance to mention that those same networks serve multitudes of dissatisfied citizens who express their disagreements to the point of changing politics and politicians. The movement known as the Arabian Spring, the Tunisian Autumn, along with other big mobilization at different continents, showed the power of announcement and mass organization that can be achieved by this unsurpassed political weapon. The researcher and professor Manuel Castells has done studies about these movements that propose other imaginary methods that allow people to take power without resorting to violence. Movements have extended by contagion in a connected world, in networks through wireless internet and marked by the quick viral diffusion of images and ideas. Um, Connecting the imaginaries, it's possible that does have changed the perceptions of politics as something instrumental that only works to pursue economic purposes. The scaled prosperity, which has found a strong endurance from groups that are not seen inside of these expectations. It may be said that even that the emergency of popular sovereignty has given a new importance to politics, translated in part of recovery of forms and self-ideals of the antique polis and republics where political activity occupied the highest place in a citizen's life. Taylor, 26. Brazil and Mexico changed their governments in 2018. The South American country took a turn to the right with the arrival of Jair Bolsonaro, displacing the Lulismo, as much as the Mexicans pushed the first government of left current in all their history. In both cases, what happened in social media, especially Facebook and WhatsApp, was the determining factor for electoral triumphs. Now it's worth asking, why do citizens ideologically change their political options opposite to that one that they had before? What turns so volatile the taste, the desire, will, even moral beginnings? Political conviction that were stored by citizens from other times don't have the same sense in the informative maelstrom that overspaces network and offers a big plasticity of options that sometimes make politics look like a spectacle that in these conciliatory forms to resolve difference and conflicts that historicamente maintain intention to Homo sapiens. Social imaginaries are always linked to deep roots with which humanity has interpreted or boiled reality from its perception of material to the complex forms of the social or that of spiritual nature. Atmospheres or collective sense had varied in shape and background throughout time. Novelties, the imaginaries in which those that are nourished remain latent. From there that we see some duality species concerning to the idea of civilized progress that is nothing but a dominant imaginary in that at that time that some call postmodern, where it has preponderancy the social conformism created systematically the mental structures of social conformism pretend to build an action and social reaction as much simplifying of reality as possible. Reutemann, 2010. Secondly, we look at try discoveries or innovation that increases every second, besides that they sever to have supposedly better quality concerning the environments where you live. This idea of comfort that justifies and any barbarity and mainly has created a self-intelligent collective mode reinforcing by injection of beliefs and values that feed and keep the system alive. It's preferable to feel the existence as if we were stroking a cat in the sense of this fur, to feel its skin as soft as possible, so that we appreciate it in a way that places us nevertheless. When doing it the opposite way, we would feel their bonus serves the road that we don't like. That happens when shaking the savage speciality in places where there are more population in economic and social inequal condition, such is the big cities of countries with terrible politic and economic problems. To what reproduces this load of unbalances that finishes in injustices for exploitation of people, what takes to another absence of equitable distribution of political riches and divide societies between the rich and the poor to the collective shape of that hides in the imaginary conformist that absorb all this as if it was normal, part of the human destination, the natural order of things. This is how democracy works, etc. I place it where it can be defined as social DNA, no? Acid ribonucleic DNA. It included information of the past that accumulates unresolved conflicts and thus gravitate in all propellers of culture. Seems like they return and both fact they evils like racial hatred, fascism, abhorrence between one and the other for ethnic reasons, religions, nature, or for keeping a different conduct or any kind of difference. That with which humanity is enlightened along with the other that darkness, it for helicoidally or reality. It seems that something forces deep divisions to persist between the people of our days, even inside the same territory. It's advised in different mediations that there exist wills that are only looking for appropriation of that last recurses that were keep in the background of the keep in the background of the experience of each culture or town, as it happens with the hurricanes that removed in the deep of the ocean were apparently sleep things that suddenly emerged in this time and civilization, the monster of ambitions, the use of strength from each other to survive, the instincts of domination that make a fragment world in which the some see themselves superior to the others, and because of that they appropriate their rights of staying while their goods have been touched and alerted. It's very possible that we are living tensions of diplomatic and political kind much more sharp or terrible than ever known before. I would like to conclude my intervention in this panel with a sad prediction that refers to military confrontations or something of this kind. I'm just trying to decipher in this synthesis a word in which signals of disagreement peak out not only for ideological nature like it was half a century ago, but for the hegemony of markets along with strategic roads and cities to control them, like if it was the repetition of the history of the Khaled Punic wars between Roma and Carthago on this version of China and the United States, two dominant powers of financial and commercial world that has every time less point of support that allows them to hold on without reload weight to each other. Hopeful, they agree and do not really on others. Studying the imaginaries as politics map allow us to see that ideologies and mentalities are different issues that complement at the time of elaborate analysis of social world. That be the way has deeply changed in the last 2 years due to COVID-19 effects. Is now that the new century begin right now. According to the Austrian researcher Sigmund Baumann, we metaphorically live in a liquid world in which everything has been dissolved quickly to begin with time, but also space. Communicate travels at the speed of light, and we move in almost supersonic speeds with there's a change to do it in the big jets. Money moves just as fast. It just takes a few seconds to take from E to B. Countless millions in monetary value of each nationality, and we be already seen virtual money with the arrival of the first Bitcoin. Ideas that surface for the web are equality, a distinctive of another kind of human behavior to which we be given the name of navigation. We are internauts, those of us who navigate the web, because it connects us to reality virtuality. This reality grows up exponentially. It increases its physical size at the same time and expands limits of rationality and the imaginary forms with which we give sense to what we call live. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Dr. Carlos Antonio Villa Guzman. Prof. Carlos stated that studying the imaginaries as politic maps allows us to see that their ideologies and mentalities are different issues that complement the time of elaborate analysis of social world that, by the way, has deeply changed in the last 2 years due to COVID-19 effects. It is not that the new century begins. According to the Australian researcher Sigmund Bowman, we metaphorically live in a liquid world in which everything has been dissolved quickly to begin with time, but also space, communicate, travel at speed of light, and we move in almost supersonic speeds when there is a chance to do it in the big jets. Ideas that surface for the web are equally distinctive of another kind of human behavior to which we've given the name of navigation. We are internaut, those of us who navigate the web because it connects us to reality virtually. This reality grows up exponentially. It increases its physics size at the same time. It expands limits of rationality and the imagery form with which we give sense to what we call life. Well, all participants, the next panelist is Dr. Rowena Capula-Reyes from Institute of Arts and Sciences of Far Eastern University. Dr. Rowena Capula-Reyes is a dean of the Institute of Arts and Sciences of Far Eastern University. Dr. Reyes teaches in the graduate program of the Institute of Education and the Department of Communication. Outside of academy, Dr. Reyes is a member of the Metro Manila Film Festival. Executive Committee is a designated chair of the MMF Education Committee. She co-founded the Send a Child to School Fund Drive with the Dominican Mission for Camiguin Island and the Not to Bullying campaign with Pedia Parma Foundation. She co-organized at Speak, a student convention on values advertising with the Advertising Foundation of the Philippines that ran for almost 15 years. Dr. Reyes and her team won a Merit Award in 2017 and an Excellent Award in 2019 at the Philippine Quill Awards organized by the International Association of Business Communication, IABC. Before being appointed dean, Reyes was Fuse Manager of Marketing and Communication. Dr. Reyes served 2 terms as president of the Philippine Association of Communication Educators. She previously held the same position at the Public Relations Educators Association of the Philippines. She was the former dean of the College of Liberal Arts and Science of Colegio de San Juan de Letran and was the founding director of the Institute of Communication. Dr. Reyes, the time is yours.
Thank you very much for that generous introduction. Allow me to share my screen if that's okay. Can you see my screen? Hello, can you confirm if you see my screen now?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Yes. Okay, please.
Now can you see it?
Yes.
All right,
Yes,
good.
Yeah.
Okay, let me start. Mabuhay, magandang hapon sa inyong lahat. Good afternoon to good friends and almost 300 participants. Maraming salamat Atma Jaya School of Communication. And hello, Indonesia. Thank you for allowing me to share. I hope you're all safe in your homes. This conference prompted me to look into how selected essential industries and educational institutions are surviving and we can say thriving in a health crisis situation in the Philippines. Communication challenges and identified solutions as articulated by communication experts. Allow me to share my presentation at the core, disruption, reconstruction, and navigation of COVID-19 crisis communication. I have divided my presentation in 4 parts. I'll give you the COVID situation in the Philippines. We'll go into the disruption and the reconstruction that we have done, and of course, navigation. In March 15, 2020, just like many countries, the Philippine government declared what is now called one of the longest and strictest lockdowns. This has caused the economy to shrink to 9.5% in 2020, the worst decline in Asia. It's estimated that 4.5 Filipinos are set to slide back into poverty. Now, even with such a sorry state, the national government through the IATF, or the Interagency Force on Emerging Infectious Disease, we have yet to fully manage the transmission of COVID-19. And as of October 16, 2021, the Philippines Department of Health COVID-19 tracker registered 2,705,792 cases with a sadly death toll of 40,424. As a result, many private and public organizations fought hard to keep themselves afloat. And according to the Department of Trade and Industry Secretary, about 30% have closed since the COVID-19 pandemic hit. And as of July 2021, establishments that are fully operational were at 44%, while the partially open but not yet in full capacity was at 46%. Now, this is the scenario of the lockdown that I mentioned earlier. We have all the Qs in the world. We have the ECQ, the GCQ, and the MECQ. In the SCQ, we're allowed to get out, but we only are allowed to buy food. The frontliners are the only ones who can go out. In the modified enhanced community quarantine, that there's a transition between the ECQ and the general community quarantine. It's more lenient. And with the GCQ, that's where we are now. It's a moderate and lenient measures compared to both ECQ and the MECQ. Now, despite the longest lockdown that we have, our enterprises that managed to survive because they're deemed to be essential, they are toiling it hard to provide top service amid the disruptions the pandemic has created. The challenge to engage with stakeholders, customers, or clients has brought about the reconstruction of innovative ways. Let me go into disruptions, the impacts and losses first. One is the work from home. And earlier, congratulations to all those who presented the paper at the corporate communication room. We talked about the work from home, and the work from home, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, has drastically changed the global working environment with a work from home arrangement. Now, in 2019, RA 11165, or the Act institutionalizing telecommuting as an alternative work arrangement for employees in the private sector, was passed here in our country. The law encourages employers to adopt telecommuting, a work arrangement that allows an employee to work from an alternative workplace with the use of telecommunication and computer technologies. The law was expected to promote workers' right to work-life balance and flexible work arrangement, but the complete opposite happened, as the full coverage of the measures has yet to be rolled out because COVID-19 happened, and it has hastened the transition from in-person work to work from home in the Philippines. Most industries or sectors were caught off guard, bringing about a no work-life balance, compounded by the blurring of the separation between the professional and personal lives. The influx of back-to-back meetings, increased workload, and a desire to impress the bosses who distrust due to the setup have caused stress and poor mental health among many. Then we have the corporate communication offices becoming nerve centers. The full-on digital morphed the communication offices into the gateway of stakeholders into the operations and services of the entire organization. Imagine your workplaces. The irony is such that with the limitations imposed by the lockdowns and the need to uphold health measures, activities that cannot be canceled due to the significance were converted to online activities such as commencement exercises, product launches, trade fairs, fundraising activities, press briefings, to name a few. The surge in roles and full adoption of digital tactics assumed by the corporate or public information offices have prompted companies to add on to budget and human resources. Unfortunately, with all of these changes, we asked, where is print? Now, De La Cruz 2020 quoted Sam Joyo, a multimedia correspondent of Straits Times, who wrote that print media has its intrinsic value. that could never be replaced by online media. Adding that, print media offers a distinct, engaging reading experience as one physically holds the material, leaps through each page, and enjoys the scent of paper as opposed to just clicking and scrolling down online. However, the pervasive nature of digital media contributed or contributes still to the speedy decline of print media readership. Now, I'm not just talking about print media, newspapers. I'm also talking about print collaterals. So what happened was 6 of the 7 participants revealed that either they removed the total budget for print or they decreased thereof. Mediavan Logistics, a multinational company that started as an e-commerce, has opted to go full digital in the last 6 years. One university produced print materials only for documentation purposes and to satisfy a few stakeholders who prefer traditional media, but everyone else stopped printing. Now, while we have outstanding disruptions, we also have reconstructions of opportunities. Collective experiences in this health crisis have shown that since a good majority is cooped in their homes, communication has become a crucial tool for connection and interaction. The unprecedented need to communicate with stakeholders and communities emphasizes communicating with transparency and an absolute appreciation for feedback. Communication built on trust and collective hope for a better virus-free environment allowed organizations to adapt to the challenges and for some even thrive in uncertain situations. So we ask, what were initial reactive efforts which have evolved into game-changing resolutions, or what we term as reconstructions of old paradigms adapting to the pandemic? Now, creating the practical knowledge, circumstances, or deals and newfound sophistications for some companies generated reconstructions following a proposed core communication tactics framework that I put together with my Indonesian friends, okay? One is collaboration. Grunig 2000 said the core value of public relations is collaboration, which also can be found in the concepts of social corporatism, collectivism, and communal relationships. Just as this was a strong pre-pandemic, collaboration springs up as the one value keeping organizations above the surface. Next is the creation of network of teams. The prolonged crisis has given rise to communication towers, quoting Alexander 2020, that assume multiple and critical roles to engage with stakeholders and maintain relationships with communities. These towers have evened out the reach, frequency, and content rollout for internal and external stakeholders, and by doing so, have employed a new panorama of platforms, digital, social media, traditional, to initiate, maintain, and elevate relationships. Now, according to one of my interviewers, she said, audiences are more interactive now. They tell you what works and does not work. Everyone wants to be heard and seen, and they're vocal of their feelings and their opinions. Companies who have opened up to complex partnerships that are mutually beneficial, the networking of teams has fostered stronger units, thus achieving maximum results. The crisis has given added importance to a health and wellness committee. As a vital member of a crisis team, synchronized and synergized actions are more of the norm and applied in partnership with scenarios for private with private, private with public, and public with the public. Let me go to private with private. We have schools as vaccination sites for private organizations and continued community extension projects. For private with public, they provide food subsidy, transportation, and venues for frontliners, assisting small and medium enterprises. The private are subsidizing electric consumption of areas for vaccinations, personal protective equipment, or PPE donations. Now, for public with public, LGU became repository and distribution centers of learning modules for state universities, and has also become a venue of vaccination sites. Now, we also have organization as part of CORE. The organizations now are becoming stronger and better. Another crucial element of CORE is the organization, which covers the steps in formulation of a well-thought-out communication plan as pushed by SME 2005. Now, Victoria 2020 articulated the clear-cut requirement for integration and harmonization of each aspect of the organization, buttressing corporate goals. Communication offices evolving as communication towers, as I mentioned earlier, saw the increase in staffing and cross-posting following an exhaustive identification of the strengths and weaknesses of each staff. By managing the interdependencies of each work stream, the most effective leaders ensure that the right teams are connected and can solve problems together, quoting Dimson et al. Now, they do this by being connected. The protracted lockdowns we experienced in the Philippines necessitated being connected from the literal and symbolic standpoints. According to Wu of Ninja Van, the building of relationship is stronger at this time. Clearer instructions and achieving trust and securing everyone is aligned to avoid duplications are key actions to achieve goals with all the harsh conditions set by the pandemic.
Excuse me,
Yes, go ahead.
Dr. Reyes, are you moving your slide?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Can you see? Sorry.
It's for example, okay, next.
Yeah,
Okay,
mine,
okay.
it's advanced digital. All right.
Okay,
Okay.
please continue.
Okay. Next is they saw the need to advance with digital. The restrictions imposed particularly on traveling to and from national and international destinations drove many organizations to maximize digital capabilities to get things accomplished. Savings taken from decreased in-person events and, of course, no print production, events to online setup precipitated the creation of software applications, allowing stakeholders to have interactive involvement. Cross-disciplinary databases or mailing lists are considered digital assets, thus fortifying messages that are rightfully received. If you have a strong database, a strong mailing list, you are assured of your messages are received by your stakeholders. I move to the third part of the communication tactics, which is relevance. Relevance is but an important reconstruction. The third element, of course, is relevance, which looks into how implemented strategies resonated with the stakeholders and communities. Communication teams that capitalize on delivering clear lines of communication resulted in developing trust among audience, enlarging the audience base and improving work environments and motivating employees. Some tactics include providing virtual campus life. In one university, there's what you call Tambay Tuesday or Hangout Tuesday. They just showed a live video of one space in the university so that the students would feel, especially the freshmen who have not been to our school or to any of the schools in the Philippines. This allowed the humanizing stories for fishermen, relevance allowed some of the organizations to humanize their stories for fisher folks or farmers. They provide relevant services like survey for public opinion for LGU heads. Okay. We also become relevant by connecting with clarity of purpose. The pivotal role of the communication team is not just to inform stakeholders of what organization is implementing, but ascertaining that protocols which are set in place are properly followed. In the case of Far East University, they have assigned teams to monitor adherence to safety protocols and that all employees are well accounted for. They know the employee population, so when they implement a project, they can monitor very well. And it's easy to identify with guidelines set by regulators. Now, almost all interviewed explored ways to mitigate the disturbance brought about the pandemic among employees as well as various stakeholders. They found ways to better engage with stakeholders through online platforms. For example, the usual telephone recording for stakeholders who were used to analog transaction. What they did was to change the instruction to how to go and do transact business online. So there was a teaching moment for some of the organizations. All right, not love, but trust. Trusted, you have to accept this. For those in the utility companies who were interviewed, nurturing constant conversation is a must. It's proven that transparency in their engagement with stakeholders and operations are key principles to achieve trust. At the heels of surviving a recent estimated billing crisis for our one of our electric power distributor, Manila Electric Company, they outsourced some 2,500 call center agents from an original 100 to handle irate customers who protested the astronomical electric billings. Many employees volunteered to help, answering questions via email or electric billings. Many employees volunteered to help. Everyone was given the customer's data to empower them with information to help. They said, and I quote, we know that we are not loved, but we want to push for being a trusted organization. Meanwhile, the Philippines' largest highway operator, the North Luzon Expressway, given that there were no cars outside, they still sustained their comprehensive communication stakeholder management despite the pandemic. Undeterred by the loss they incurred since most vehicles were grounded for the duration of the lockdown, NLEX continued with their strong message of delivering comfort and convenience, and money spent on toll is worth it. Let me go to engagement. The last of the core communication tactics, fully determining and understanding the needs and concern of stakeholders in this health crisis resulted in meaningful engagement. Now more than ever, there's a need to actively listen and respond quickly to stakeholder initiatives. Representatives of 2 universities who were interviewed revealed that the speed by which you reply to an email or to an inbox message is part of total quality measures indicator to quality service. Yes, speed by which you reply to inquiries. But a representative of one of university also said that in the beginning, they use an application to filter how urgent one message is. Realizing that now there's people are looking into the speed that you reply, he realized and he thought, I added another layer, which resulted to people thinking their messages are not important. Now, early adopters to the digital medium or platforms have allowed communication teams to creatively engage with their stakeholders. For some schools, there's a slow acceptance in the use of TikTok, the most downloaded app in the Philippines, quoting Mateo 2020, as a communication platform, given that it has an entertainment nature. Now, as a result of the above elements, stakeholder communication strategies developed by public and private organizations amid the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as the fact-based reports on COVID-19 related issues, have culminated in improved business, increased enrollment for those we have interviewed, and generally sustainable relationships. And so we came back to this. How do public and private organizations navigate the communication crisis and the pandemic? One is through active voice and active listening. Both private and public organizations employed active listening because the audience developed very active voices. The International Listening Association defines listening as the process of receiving, constructing meaning from, and responding to spoken and or non-verbal messages. The twin tactics are put to great use because the audience has a lot to offer in both narratives and walking the talk. As such, organizations have set clear goals to achieve in this pandemic, quoting Mandy 2020. Now, essential industries such as Ninja Van, Meralco, and North Luzon Expressway, and the education sector here represented by University of the Philippines, Los Baños, Far East University, Visayas State University, and Colegio de San Juan de Letran responded to the incessant trends posed by the health crisis by putting their stakeholders a priority. The next one is organize the organization. Strategies and tactics employed by these organizations manifested a need to collaborate and place trust and transparency at the forefront. Communication leaders are empowering network of teams to achieve goals newly laid out to combat the liquoring crisis, quoting the ORIA and DESMET 2020. According to Segel, when faced with an overwhelming volume of critical decisions, leaders may feel the urge to limit the authority and tighten control. But organizational resilience depends on more stakeholders' perspective, organized across a network of cross-functional teams with clear mandates, resulting to meaningful engagement. With everyone given a mouthpiece in the digital space, we are faced with a cluttered digital world. But rising above the clutter to make a difference is of great consequence to all involved. While digital is the way to go, providing meaning and responding with utmost care for immediacy spell the difference. Thank you very much for listening to me. Maraming salamat.
Thank you, Dr. Rowena Capulares, for sharing about the coral disruption, reconstruction, and navigation of COVID-19 crisis communication. The last panelist is Mrs. Karina Gan. Karina Gan is a Center Chief Marketing Officer for Growth Market. She leads the first and talented team of marketing and communication strategies across Asia Pacific, Middle East, Africa, and Latin America. Working as one integrated team, Karina and her leaders craft purposeful campaign that support the firm business strategy. The vision is to create opportunities and moments, both online and offline, for a center to interact with and influence stakeholders, including our clients, candidates, employees, and influencers, to make this happen. Karina empowers her leaders to collaborate globally and act locally. She empowers her leaders to think creatively and take at 36 degrees approach to building a powerful center brand in every local market. Mrs. Karina, again, the time is yours.
Okay, thank you very, very much. Can you guys hear me clearly? Am I clear?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. So first and foremost, thank you for the opportunity. I feel very, very fortunate to be part of, to be in the same, I guess, virtual room with very seasoned leaders and experts. I guess the one thing I would say to everyone is, in my session, what I'll do is I'll talk a little bit about how we at Accenture, and when we think about marketing and how marketeers today need to move into a digital first mindset. So I'm hoping that many of you who are hopefully about to graduate or thinking about your career path, you might want to consider coming to join us. The one thing I would also say is Nia and I have a long history of working together, and I know many of you know Nia. She doesn't need any introduction. She's an icon in your country for sure. And we've had the privilege of working together for many years. I think I probably joined and then Nia joined soon after. So we've been colleagues for a long, long time. And Nia, if you could go to the next slide. I just thought I'll give you a sneak peek on a little bit about who I am, me in pictures, right? In the introduction, the role that I have, I am the CMO, Accenture CMO for a region that we call growth markets. And if you take the world map and you take out what is North America and Canada, and you take out what is main Europe, what's left is actually what we call growth markets. And growth markets for us is all of Asia Pacific. So Japan, China, Australia, Southeast Asia, obviously a big market for us, and through to Middle East and at South Africa. And then on the other extreme is Latin America. So very quickly, when I first took on the job, I had to come up with I had to learn the geographies very, very quickly. And it's been an amazing career. And I'll talk a little bit about my career as we go along. But this is me in pictures. There's just 3 of us in the family, the husband and the son. My son is about to graduate. He turns 21 next month. So he's doing he's about to graduate from Monash. So it's quite an exciting time if you think about it. There's some pictures of me and my colleagues. The pictures on the left is with the team in Malaysia. Home for me is in Kuala Lumpur. I've always lived in Kuala Lumpur. And then pick some of the pictures with my global colleagues, my global boss, all of us that you can see seated at the table there. We're in Tokyo. So I've had quite an illustrious career, I have to say, and it's been very exciting. And then the other thing that you'll notice is I do come from a big family. So it is quite common for us at Christmas to have 70 to 80 presents underneath the tree, and some pictures of me. And I hope you think I look quite cute when I was young. If only I could be that cute, now. Nia, if you could go to the next page. Before I get into, 3 things that I'd like you to take away, I thought I'll spend a bit of time just giving you a sneak peek into Accenture, right? Hopefully it's a brand that you might have come across, but we're a huge brand, right? Today we're listed in the New York Stock Exchange. I think our share price is about $350 something. So it's a big organization, a global organization. We just recently closed our financial year, our FY 2022 financial year, and we closed the business at about $50 billion. So this is a $50 billion business. For us in growth markets, we are close to about 12 billion, right? So what's been interesting for our business, to be honest, is that as COVID hit, like most organizations, we face that whole period of uncertainty. How do we pivot? What do we need to do? How do we engage our employees? The session before talked a lot about, crisis communications. And actually what we've witnessed in the corporate side of the house is that this pivot that we made as an organization was what kept us in a pretty good state as we move forward. And it's hard to thrive, as many of you know, it's hard to thrive during a period like COVID, but it has been crazy. And of course, like all corporations, you have to deal with a lot of fallouts in terms of, people feeling burned out. How do you make sure that there's rotation, etc., right? So big organization, we do work with many, many known brands. Those that may be familiar with you, the big brands like the McDonald's and the Coca-Colas and the Nikes of the world. And then in this part of the world for us, some of our bigger clients, our marquee clients include the likes of Shiseido. You'll see a video of one of our marquee clients, which I hope you recognize the brand, yeah? So my takeaway across these in the next couple of minutes that I'm going to share with you is, I think suffice to say, we all know that the world has changed, right? Without a doubt. COVID sort of fast-tracked that change, whether we liked it or not, or whether we were prepared for it or not. And so when the world changed, the marketing function has changed. So if any of you are thinking about, how do I build a marketing career? What do I need to be ready for? You need to realize that that function that you're going to come out and join and be a part of isn't the same function 3 years ago, isn't the same function 2 years ago. There's lots of interesting pivots that will make your job a whole lot more interesting, I feel. I talk to students often, MBAs as well as graduate students, and I get some general questions about what does it mean, what kind of a career I'm going to get. And then I wanted to pivot towards digital, right? Because like I said, everything that we're doing today is digital, it's everywhere. And so how are we responding as a company, as an organization, and as a marketing function to deal with that pivot? And then finally, I'll share a little bit about purpose, because purpose is so central to the bloodline of an organization. I mean, we all talk about purpose. Organizations talk about purpose. Corporations talk about purpose. And often you find that a purpose becomes a statement that you put out when you are doing orientation for new hires, or it's in your electronic brochure, it's in your website. But the big thing for us is living our purpose. And in October last year, we launched our purpose. In the thick of all the things that we were going through as an organization, we felt that it was critical to restate our purpose. We made changes to our purpose, and I wanted to share some of the things that we did on that front. So Nia, if you could go to the next page. Okay, so I think a lot of people have heard about, talked about, what has the year before COVID been like, right? So we do a lot of what we call thought leadership that we put out, right? And I think what's interesting from this page, if you take nothing out, right, is what has been interesting as a result of COVID is corporations and CEOs have suddenly had to step up. Not that governments didn't need to step up, but I think the call for companies to step up was tremendous. If you look at some of the data that we have, right, it says 76% of people said CEOs should take the lead in changing. And what were they expecting to change? Equal pay, discrimination, and many things around the environment. The second thing that was clear in a piece of thought leadership that we put up was 75% of employees trust their employer more than the media or the government. Now, I do want to caveat this in saying that this was at the start of COVID, when the flow of information wasn't coming as fast and furious. And so many employers, right, were looking for their organization to give them some kind of direction, to give them some kind of assurance, to give them some kind of guidance that says, go work from home, we're going to make this happen for you. We experienced this as an organization, right? I spent 2 years of my career in India, living in Bangalore. And today in India, we have 200 over 1,000 employees. And when COVID hit, we had to repurpose and move almost close to 150 to 180 or 80,000 of our employees to work online. And we were able to do that because in many sense, and Nia can attest to that as well, we work in a very virtual organization because that's how we look at how we need to be successful as a global company. So a couple of things, I'm not going to drain this slide, right? But the other thing that I think we started to see as part of COVID, and more so in North America and Europe, less so in some parts of Asia, of course, right? This whole, this whole notion of this whole statement around racial injustice and what was happening. And you can say, okay, that's one thing that's happening in a country. How does that have to do with anything that I as an organization stand for? No surprise, all of us have customers, all of us have employees. If you're a company, you have at least, and of course you have communities that you deal with, but customers were looking at organizations and listening very actively about where their stance was when it came to racial injustice. And we've not seen that at such warp speed, right? And then I spoke about the whole, the employer looking at the employee for information. And I think the last thing I would say is brands suddenly became much more aware as to whether their customers are going to buy them or boycott them, which is why I think this whole notion of purpose becomes front and center. Okay, let's move on. I think the next slide kind of talks about this whole idea of what we're calling the business of experience. Nia, did you advance the slide? Yes. So the business of experience, I think many people talk about customer experience, so which is CX. We feel the thing that we need to talk about is the business of experience, because it's not good enough for you to come across digitally and able to engage with your customers digitally, but your back end, you can't operate at speed, right? So many of us have experienced this, right? You buy something online and then you have a problem, and then you try and call the organization, their contact center isn't working. There's no way for them to track, what happened to your purchase. You don't get answers, and everything is stalled, right? So a lot of organizations have had to compress. So when we talk about business of experience, we're talking about a corporation that has it end to end, not just the front end, the customer facing part, but the back end. And therefore, what it means for marketeers is when you're thinking about putting forward a digital first brand and experience, you've got to make sure that the back end lives up to what you promised on the front end. Okay, next slide, please. And finally, this thing that I guess some of you are already operating on the far end of the spectrum, but when I started in my career many moons ago, it was always, let's go mass, let's do print, let's do advertisements, commercials, right? The audience, we need to reach the reach. And that was the big thing. I need to reach as many people as possible so they know us. Obviously, that has shifted with the advent of digital, the ability to do much more targeting. With the advent of data, insights, and analytics, I'm able to do much more targeting. So going from mass down to a much more narrow set, I can then serve up things that my narrow set wants. But in today's world, I can actually communicate to an audience of one. There are pros and cons because we are looking at a world where there's a lot of question around data privacy, etc., right? But technically, if I'm, if I am a marketeer, I could almost communicate with an audience of one. And that is the shift that has happened in marketing. So if we go to the next slide, I wanted to give you, we're going to play a video and I hope the video works, but it does give you, it's a piece of work that we did with a client of ours. And hopefully you recognize the brand. It's a huge brand. We do a lot of work for that particular client in this part of the world. And that gives you a sense of just how pervasive digital is. Give us a minute.
May I play?
Yes, go ahead, please. Hey, I hope you enjoyed that video and you recognize the brand, right? Every time I watch this video, I have so much pride because we do a lot of work with Uniqlo. The company is fast retailing. I've met its CEO, very visionary individual. And in fact, this video sort of is what we put together. We worked with them in the digital lab initiative, and many of the things that you see are things that we are piloting and that we've built for them in their stores, particularly in Japan, right? So if you walk into some of the stores, you see some of these technology. Now, what I wanted to say, and we can go to the next slide, is if you are a marketer working for that brand, imagine what you need to do. Imagine what kind of a mindset you need to have. And so with us at Accenture and in growth markets, we have close to 300 professionals that work in the different geographies. We start with a digital first mindset. So you can see, the screens that I'm sharing with you is a visual depiction of just how we think digital first. And this, where you see the ads, is a new material, the new branding that we launched in tandem with the launch of our purpose. And let there be change is our big mantra that we all put front and center because change is everywhere. So if you go to the next slide, please. And just to give you a sense of just how vast our social media footprint is, right? I think somebody at the start was talking about social media. This is a huge platform for us, right? If you look at these numbers, and we don't, when you think about it, we have our own social handles in the geographies as well. So we have a team that focuses on trying to engage, whether it is a client audience, whether it's a talent audience, folks like you to come work for us, whether it is a community in the work that we do, right, on the corporate citizenship side, etc. So this is such a powerful tool for us, and you can see that our reach is tremendous. And what's worth pointing out in my part of the world, obviously, there are new platforms. Well, they're not new for those who live in China. WeChat is huge. In Japan, we use Line, etc. Right? So let's keep going. I'm just conscious of time. I think the next slide talks a little bit about, So I talked about taking a stance, and this was, our test, if you like, when it was during COVID. Do we write about taking a stance on vaccines? Do we write and do we stand up for anything that's material against racism, as you can imagine? And do we have our leaders front and center, not only declaring it, but talking about it and putting it in practice? So today, we are big on IND, inclusion and diversity. We actually publish our inclusion and diversity data. So if you go on our .com pages and you click on some of our country pages, you'll see that we publish our diversity data. And if you keep going to the next slide, to keep going to the next one, I just wanted to talk a bit about purpose, right? Because we know that every band has to have a purpose, but what is a purpose? Is the purpose an extension of what you are and what you do and the services that you provide? Or is it a whole lot more? So when we went through our exercise of trying to define our purpose, the first thing we did was we asked a lot of people, what do you think our purpose was? And most people could remember, if you, like Nia and I, if we were around a long time enough, we used to say that we work in an environment where, we live, where we want to change the way people work and live. That was what we used to say before. But if you go to the next slide, we went through an exercise, and it's important to think about this, right? As I said, we're listed on the stock exchange. When we first listed in 2001, we listed in 2001, and Ian remembers this because we moved our brand from Anderson Consulting to Accenture. In 2016, we were a $12 billion brand, right? In 2017, we kind of grew it a bit. In 2019, we were 16,000. As of 2020, we're a $26 billion brand. So if you are in a marketing function, your job is very important. You have a very important job because the brand that you are responsible for in every part of the world has a humongous value. And for us, it's a $26 billion value that we have to protect, that we have to guard very carefully, and we have to manage and curate the experience that people have with our brand very, very carefully. So if you go to the next slide, how do we come about our purpose, right? It wasn't 5 people sitting in a room as a leadership, the CEO and it's 5 people sitting down and saying, what should be our purpose? We typically, like Accenture, we go through quite a rigorous set of exercise. We talk to leaders, we talk to our people, we talk to experts. So we needed to get views from the outside. And then once we had an idea of what the purpose was going to be, we had to get it tested, right? We wanted to make sure that if you step up and you say, I stand for X, your clients are going to believe you. You've got evidence that that can back up that statement, and people, your own people. To be honest, when you think about purpose, your first major audience for purpose is actually your internal people. So today at Accenture, we have 600 over 1,000 employees, and they need to live the purpose. They need to believe it before we can sell it into anybody else, right? So we went through quite a rigorous exercise. The next slide, I think, is the unveiling. So this is where we landed. And this is what we launched in the month of October of last year. And this purpose is about delivering on the promise of technology, because we're largely a technology company. What I like is it's not just technology, but human ingenuity. So our belief is that the two have to come together in order to live your purpose. Technology as a standalone, human ingenuity as a standalone is not going to work. Both have to come together. And so what we did was we created a whole bunch of material to support and bring to life that purpose. So what you're seeing on screen is some of our ads, our vignettes that we put together, and they're like a minute and a half vignettes that you can put on social, etc. And we were in the news, etc. If you go to the next slide, this is some of the materials. Keep going. A lot of it is visual, so just keep pressing forward if you don't mind. So this is, and when you think about purpose, we had a brand, but we needed to bring it to life. So we created a whole new set of brand expressions that gave our people a lot of ability to express themselves, right? Through visual form, through typeface, through written form. And then I talked about let there be change, right? And we had to change our website, etc. So here, what you see is the change that took place. And then this one is, obviously we have offices around the world. And this is one, this is a visual of our office. And in growth markets, I think we have another slide, one more, if you could keep going. So don't play the video just yet. So in growth markets, when we launched this purpose across our employees in growth markets, we wanted to do something different, right? Everybody was tired of town halls where it's all talking heads and 10 people are talking and everybody has 2 minutes and you're going. And, and so we decided to do a festival. We wanted it to be fun. We wanted purpose to come from the voice of our people and not just from the voice of the leader. It's one thing to have a leader say, here's our purpose. All of you must live your purpose. But we wanted to ask our employees, how would they express that purpose? And so this video is a bit like a teaser video of what we put together for our employees in order to launch our purpose across growth markets. Okay, go ahead and play the video.
filled with machines. Together we can be the real thing.
Quality and quality are both holding hands.
We got the purpose to create and to achieve our best.
Okay, so that was it. And I'll end my presentation, but one of the things that we're very proud of in growth markets is the diversity of our cultures. And we wanted to bring that to life through music, art, song, and dance. And that's what we delivered with our purpose. Okay, with that, thank you very much. And thank you for the opportunity to share this with you.
Thank you, Mrs. Karinagan. Mrs. Karinagan stated that marketing has come a long way and the whole landscape has changed. Mass media shows that an audience of way too many. The digital world shows that let's get more targeted and narrow our focus. The post-digital world shows that an audience of one give with that experience. Center brand journey and a center brand value for new strategy, new purpose, new brand expression, and comprehensive activation. A center purpose is to deliver on the promise of technology and human ingenuity. Well, our participant, before a discussion and question and answer session, I would like to ask for panelists, Ibu Dr. Atika Diana Messi, Bapak Dr. Andes Ahmad Karis Subair MA, Dr. Rowena Kapulorius, and maybe Mrs. Karinagan. What do you foresee as the main challenges in your respective fields at the next phase post-pandemic, or if we are forced to live in this pandemic? Okay, please.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Satria. So I think the pandemic changed the way we interact to each other. So it's now because of this technological change our lives. So there are some issues that we are facing. For example, that new working habits for Generation X or earlier, blue collar worker that no longer needed since like a driver, okay, and then this is will lead to industrial relations problems. But I think the most important question is when we talk about our lives, our interactions with other people, and the technology is, are we forming technology or the technology forming us? Are we control the use of technology or the other way around? So this is the questions that are very important to us. So how important is the technology to us? So it will change. Is it just changing the way you work, the way you interact to each other, or is it changing yourself? So I think the challenge is how we make the choice to the level of the interactions that allow us to live in harmony with technology. So I think there must be a balance about our lives and the technology. And as my presentations before, I think we should go back to our virtue of human beings. We're talking about the ethical foundations, which is very important. And earlier, I'm suggesting the concept of Philippa Food, ethical concept of virtue in communicating and interaction on social media. And this is a really interesting because the technology, even though they have some great benefits, but there are some indications that it has undermined our humanity in some aspects. So like Monica Lewinsky said, there is a compassion deficits because we spend most of the time with the technology. And also I think we have to maintain our humanity nature, like that's compassion, empathy. So we have to communicate each other with that kind of emotion, so we're not losing ourselves and identity. So when we talk online, when we have that kind of virtue, when we have that kind of compassion and empathy, we're not judging people when we read some bad news about other people. So I think that's my answer for Ibu Dorin's questions. Thank you, Mr. Satria.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ratika Diana. Next, Bapak Ahmad Karis Subaya, please. Excuse me, your microphone still mute, Bapak Ahmad. Oke.
Saya akan menjawab dalam bahasa Indonesia, karena tadi saya lihat partisipannya sebagian besar berbahasa Indonesia. Saya tadi mengatakan bahwa kita sesungguhnya sudah diingatkan sejak dua dasawarsa terakhir abad ke-20 sampai sekarang dua dasawarsa awal di abad ke-21, 3 gelombang besar yang sesungguhnya, yaitu postmodernisme, kemudian ada post-truth, terus kemudian akhirnya nanti juga ada post-pandemik. Dan ketiga post tadi, ada postmodernisme, kemudian post-truth, kemudian post-pandemik, sesungguhnya adalah gelombang yang mengingatkan kita bahwa ada nilai-nilai kemanusiaan kita yang sudah mulai dilupakan. Postmodernisme merupakan satu gelombang reaktif atas kehidupan modern yang mulai meninggalkan nilai-nilai kemanusiaan. Post-truth juga sebenarnya mengingatkan bahwa ada nilai-nilai atau value yang kemudian kita tinggalkan dalam hidup manusia. Nah, pandemi COVID-19 ini pun sesungguhnya mengingatkan kita bahwa ada sesuatu yang salah dalam kehidupan kita. Jadi pada dasarnya dengan 3 gelombang besar di akhir abad ke-20 dan di awal abad ke-21 ini, kita coba sebetulnya mengingatkan kita sendiri bahwa manusia itu harus diposisikan lebih tinggi daripada teknologi yang diciptakannya. Kita sekarang harus mulai sadar itu, keserakahan manusia, kemudian meletakkan manusia justru di bawah karya-karya ciptaannya, kemudian juga bahwa kita seringkali lupa bahwa ada sesuatu yang harus kita renungkan, yang harus kita pikirkan, kita kedepankan nalar dan sebagainya, kita sekarang lupa. Jadi dengan postmodernisme, dengan post-truth, dan mudah-mudahan nanti pandemi ini segera berakhir, kita kembali kepada jati diri kita sebagai makhluk, yaitu makhluk yang punya martabat justru karena memiliki nilai-nilai manusia. Saya kira begitu.
Baik, thank you, Bapak Ahmad Karis Subair. Next, Dr. Reyes.
Yes, thank you very much. I'd like to go back to the communication tactics model that I presented earlier. It's still core. It's collaboration, the importance of teamwork. In this pandemic, we have seen so many people working together. The organization working with external stakeholders, the organization working with internal, because that's the only way we can survive this pandemic, and to work with one another. And then I'd like to go to organization. We have to strengthen the organization. We have to work with, if we were affected because we were all cooped up at home, because we are limited by our resources, a strong organization will allow us to surpass all the obstacles that were given to us. This will make everyone see the value, their strength and their weaknesses. If they come forward and say, I can do this for the organization. And then the third one is relevance. And really, I just saw the presentation earlier, and really you have to rise above the clutter. It's not just about you sending all the messages. What matters now? It was found out that we cannot be sending messages that we use pre-pandemic. Now, everything is changed. Everything has to be relevant for them because there's just a clutter. That's the problem now with the digital world. We get it from all sides. And then that we go to meaningful engagement, meaning that they too engage us. They tell us that they like what they are hearing from us and that it will benefit them and it will improve their lives. Let me tell you, we have seen so many people, stakeholders per organization, that they only look at the organization as their source of information, as their source of truth in this health crisis. So again, earlier I said, it's not that they love you, but because they trust you, that you're going to send out something that's important to them and one that will improve their lives. In the Philippines, we sometimes, a lot of our stakeholders, depending on the organization, we feel lost. But if we go to our trusted organization, if we know that we're safe, we know that they're not just selling or they're not just marketing anything to us, but they are there because we are part of their organization and they mean well, then I think that's the one that's going to help us navigate in this very protracted health crisis. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Reyes. And next, Mrs. Karina again, please.
Yeah, I'll just add a few things. I think the first one is making sure that we don't go back to pre-pandemic world. In the pre-pandemic world, we had, lots of physical events, lots of wastage, lots of changes that we had to make, at least from an organization standpoint. And what we need to make sure is we don't go back to that, right? That's the first thing. The second thing is I put care for the employees front and center. Employees, like customers, will judge organizations from what they do, more importantly, over the last 2 years, 1.5 years. They're going to judge you based on whether you were able to step up, whether you took care of them, whether you put them in the center of everything that you do. So for us, care for employees is front and center, and it is critical. We're in a business where we're in a people business, right? So we cannot forget that. The third thing in terms of challenges is this whole notion of sustainability. So as a marketeer, it's not just about positioning that we know what we need to do. We do a lot of work in this space with clients, but we as an organization have declared certain targets and goals. And so in marketing, we need to look at all the things that we do and make sure that it's sustainable and it works towards that goal. And then finally, talking about making sure we don't go back to pre-pandemic, technology affords us the ability to have data and insights. So we need to use data and insights to be smarter about how you engage and you don't overwhelm, and that you don't, provide a whole bunch of things to a bunch of people that don't really need to know. So to us, when we look at that, it's, do we have the right insights? Do we know what are the best moments? And are we having the right level of conversations with these individuals that allows us to have it in a two-way manner versus one-way?
Thank you, Ms. Karina again. And once again, thank you very much for all panelists. We still have maybe 5 minutes for the next session. Will be a discussion and question answer session. Before closing keynote, artificial intelligence and bots in marketing, ethical limits up to by Professor Dr. Joel Kolak. And we invite all participants to deliver the question by writing them down in the chat room or turning your camera and microphone on. Okay. Dr. Hadi, maybe.
Yes, hello.
Okay. Please, your statement.
Yes, so in fact, I'm very glad to be present in this panel. We heard a lot of explanations, a lot of presentations. It's not easy to resume everything we heard, especially that we had some philosophical approach from Professor Ahmad Charis Zubair, an anthropological one from Professor Carlos Villa, one about the collaboration between organizations in Philippines that I appreciated a lot from Dr. Reyes, and marketing with Karina, and bullying on digital with Dr. Diana. So thanks for everyone. We at the University of Le Havre Normandie, we are very interested by the question of digital trace. When we talk about digital technology, we're mentioning also the digital traceability. And me and Professor Kolok are part of a current that works on digital traces. So maybe I can question our speakers about that. What do you think about because we talked about advantages of digital and inconvenience also, or the risks that can create. So what do you think during pandemic time, and maybe we are preparing now for the post-pandemic era? What about digital traces? All of these traces that users everywhere in different sectors, in daily life, but also in professional activities, social activities, etc., are producing. These traces should create also a kind of problem for users concerning their private life or their privacy, and for governments, for states, concerning the use of these traces or this big data for different kind of goals and objectives. So is this one of the problems that we should consider when we talk about collaboration between organizations, when we talk about digital marketing, when we talk about the post-pandemic human being, when we talk about bullying on digital, etc.? So it will be my question, and thank you for all.
Thank you, Dr. Hadi.
I'd like to
Okay,
give a
Dr.
comment,
Reyes,
Dr.
please.
Satria.
Please, Dr. Reyes.
Hi. Yeah. There's a increase in ensuring, because we just passed a law in the Philippines, a data privacy law, and we see a lot of organizations and at the level of the students, because we are all from schools here, the level of the students, we are there's the media information literacy, and we're pushing a lot of ensuring that students know about their data privacy and their data traces, if you can call that data traces, yes. And that's very strong now. And in the Philippines, one of the new offices that have been opened even before the pandemic would be the data privacy unit of organizations, both public and private. This is a strong, big word that we all have to comply, maybe because the fear now for all of us, once somebody would come out and say that you have violated their data privacy, we talk of millions as a penalty. So that has prompted many organizations in the Philippines to really look into how they manage data per organization. There's no such thing as sharing of data. There's no such thing as one organization sharing it or one organization selling it for one. That's very clear, and all of the and you will see that happening as we speak. That was before the pandemic, and during the pandemic, this is also very strong. Even in the way we were conducting the tracer, what do you call this, contact tracing, that was made sure that the data that you will collect will only be just for contact tracing. It's not even for you sharing whatever information that you want to share. Again, maybe we're motivated by the penalty that will be imposed if you violate data privacy in the Philippines. I hope I answer your question.
So if I may just add, right, I think cybersecurity is a major segment of growth. And there's a reason why it's a huge segment of growth, simply because there's so much concern about leakages and ransomware, etc. As an organization, because we run an organization globally, we are very strict with regulation, GDPR, because you can't share client data, you can't. So what we do in marketing, at least as it relates to us, we make sure that all our marketeers are very trained. So we have regular training. We have actually audit teams that look at the work product to make sure that no stone is left unturned. And as an organization, we have a lot of training and learning sessions that we have around what we call technology quotient. And in those, we talk about security, we talk about data privacy, etc. Because it's so critical to us. I mean, being the brand that we are and being a global company, we cannot afford to have a mistake that you have in one country has implications globally. It's not just, if something happens in Malaysia, it stays in Malaysia. It no longer is that way. So I think there's a lot more awareness, there's a lot more of steps that are being taken and checkpoints that are being taken around that space for us, at least.
Thank you very much. I saw that Dr. Kartika Wangi wanted to say something about that.
Yeah, for the last time I gave for Dr. Dorin Kartika Wangi for the last statement, maybe.
Yes, I just want to give a short highlight. Since we host this ICCOMAC and Hidesi webinar, actually we started with webinar series, and we understand that from the webinar series there are cutting off the disciplines, interdisciplines perspective, in looking at the communications and ethics. It is inherent in many and almost all fields and level of communications, interpersonal communications, group and organizational communication, as well as mass communication and online. But we cannot forget that non-verbal communications is really important in this kind of situation, since that visualization is important as well. So verbal and non-verbal communications plays significant roles in this communications, ethics, and many fields where communication and ethics inherent in it. That's what I want to say. Thank you very much for all the presenters that sharing their knowledge. It's really amazing. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dorin Kartika Wangi. All participants, and so it is the plenary session of the 6th International Conference of Corporate and Marketing Communication, ICCOMAC 2021, in collaboration with Hidesi 2021 conference with the term Managing Issues in Human Communication today. We would like to thank all speakers, Dr. Ratika Diana Messi, Bapak Dr. Andes Ahmad Skari Subarema, Dr. Rowena Capularies, Professor Dr. Carlos Antonio Villa Guzman, and Mrs. Karina Gan for the elaboration and today's insight. Thank you very much for your time. I would like to give the room back to the MC. Aurelia, Daniel.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much to Dr. Satria and all of the respected speakers for sharing your knowledge with us all today. Ladies and gentlemen, right now we will continue by giving out certificates of appreciation for all speakers and moderators. To speakers and moderators, please kindly turn on your camera as we will be taking photos. First of all, we would like to invite Dr. Rowena Kapulang Reyes and Dr. Eko Widodo to award the certificate. Please welcome Dr. Rowena and Dr. Eko.
We would like to invite Mbak Dian Sekaring to take the photo of Dr. Eko and Dr. Rowena. You may continue, Dr. Eko.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Rowena Reyes, for the participate as invited speaker in this ICCOMAC. Thank you from Jakarta.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. My pleasure.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rowena Kapulang Reyes and Dr. Eko Widodo. Next, we would like to invite Madam Karina Gan and Dr. Eko Widodo to award the certificate. It seems like Dr. Karina Gan has left the Zoom conference. We will move on to the next speaker. We would like to invite Dr. Ahmad Kari Zubair MA and Dr. Alexander Seran MA to award the certificate. To speakers, please turn on your cameras as we will take a photo session. To Dr. Alexander Seran, you may proceed. I'm sorry, Dr. Alexander, you're still on mute.
Oke, terima kasih banyak Dr. Andus Ahmad Haris Subair, MA. Ini adalah senior kami dalam Himpunan Dosen Etika seluruh Indonesia. Dan keterlibatan beliau telah memberi inspirasi untuk banyak orang muda untuk berminat pada etika dalam memandang seluruh persoalan di negara ini. Terima kasih Mas Haris untuk insightful message yang Anda berikan pada hari ini.
Terima kasih, sama-sama.
Terima kasih.
Thank you, Dr. Ahmad Kari Zubair and Dr. Alexander Seran. Before you leave, we would like to take a photo session. I will begin the countdown to take the photo. You are welcome to take a position. 1, 2, 3. Smile. Thank you, Dr. Ahmad Karis and Dr. Alexander Seran.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, inviting Dr. Rahtika Diana MSI and Dr. Alexander Seran to award the certificate. Next, we would like to invite Dr. Atika Diana and Dr. Alexander Seran.
Baik, terima kasih banyak untuk Dr. Atika Diana, MSc, yang telah memberikan banyak pandangan yang bernilai dalam kaitan dengan etika dan media sebagai masalah yang penting dalam pembelajaran ilmu komunikasi. Pengalaman Dr. Atika Diana akan membantu kita semua yang mendengar pada hari ini untuk bahu-membahu mengarungi berbagai macam persoalan di dalam meningkatkan kepedulian kita pada kejayaan sekolah, bangsa, dan negara kita. Terima kasih banyak, Bu Diana.
Terima kasih juga, Pak Alex.
Terima kasih.
Thank you, Dr. Diana and Dr. Alexander. We would like to take a photo. So you are welcome to take a position, and I will begin to count for the photo session. 1, 2, and 3. Smile. Thank you, Dr. Atika Diana and Dr. Alexander Seran. Now we would like to invite Dr. Hadi Sabah Ayon as Dr. Carlos Antonio Villa Guzman representative and Dr. Dorin Kartikawangi MSE to award the certificate.
Thank you. Unfortunately, because of the time difference between Indonesia and Mexico, Dr. Carlos Villa couldn't stay with us. Yeah.
Yes, we can understand that. So it's okay for Dr. Carlos to leave the webinar. On behalf of the School of Communications and also ICCOMAC and Hidesi organizer, would like to thank to Prof. Carlos and send this appreciation to him, Dr. Hadi. Thank you very much.
Gracias. Thank you.
Dr. Hadi Sabah and Dr. Dorin Kartikawangi, we would like to take a photo session, so you are welcome to take a position. And I will begin to count for the photo session. 1, 2, 3, smile. Thank you, Dr. Hadi Sabah and Dr. Dorin Kartikawangi.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
All right, to speakers and moderators, kindly turn on your camera as well, as we will be taking a photo with the certificate. Next, we would like to invite Professor Dr. Joel Kolo and Dr. Dorin Kartikawangi, MSE, to award the certificate. Please welcome.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes. Well, actually, Prof. Kolok will present his thought on this topic after all the speakers receive the certificate. However, I will lend this certificate earlier, Prof. Kolok, just before you deliver your speech. Hopefully it's okay with you. So this is our deep appreciations for your support. From the beginning, you know, like we started with webinar series, and now in the ICCOMAC and Hidesi conference.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to participate to ICCOMAC, and I'm very glad to be with you today and to see so much people who attend the conference. And it's a very big success, and it's my pleasure to present today my communication concerning autonomous artificial intelligence and bots in marketing, ethical and limits of tools. Can I beginning my presentation now, or may I wait for a moment? How you plan?
Wait for a moment. I think the Master of Ceremony will lead you to your presentations.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we are going to take a photo first with Dr. Dury and Professor Dr. Joe. All right, with the certificate maybe. All right, 1, 2, 3, smile. All right, thank you so much, Professor Dr. Joel Kolok and Dr. Dorin Kartikawangi. Next, we would like to invite our moderators, starting with Dr. Satria Kusuma Fajar Mahardika, MSE, and Dr. Nia Sarinastiti, MA, to award the certificate. Please welcome Dr. Satria and Dr. Nia.
Thank you, Pak Satria, for your commitment in moderating. It has been great work, and I believe everyone were able to understand the overall topic based on the resume you've provided. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nia Sarinastiti. Congratulations, proficient for ICCOMAC 2020.
All right, we are going to take a photo in 1, 2, 3, smile. All right, thank you so much, Dr. Satria Kusuma Fajar and Dr. Nia Sarinastiti. Now we would like to invite Madam Luciana Budiman and Dr. Nia to award the certificate. Please welcome Madam Luciana. All right, it seems like Madam Luciana is not here at the moment, but we will move forward first to the next certification. Now we would like to invite Dr. Hadi Sabah Ayon and Dr. Nia Sarinastiti to award the certificate. Please welcome Dr. Hadi Sabah.
Yes, thank you. Terima kasih.
Thank you, Dr. Hadi Sabah, for your contribution as the moderator for the media session during the parallel. And thank you once again also for providing inputs into the best paper.
Terima kasih. It's my pleasure. Thanks for you.
Very good.
All right, I think we shall take a photo first. All right, I'll count to now first. 1, 2, 3, smile. All right, thank you so much, Dr. Hadi Sabah and Dr. Nia.
Thank you very much.
Next, we would like to invite Dr. Dini Safitri, MSE, and Dr. Alexander Saran, MA, to award the certificate. Please welcome Dr. Dini Safitri. Dr. Dini Safitri. It seems like Dr. Dini is also not here at the moment, which we will proceed to the next one. We would like to invite Dr. Michael Dua, where Dr. Alexander Seran will be giving out the certificate. Please welcome Dr. Michael Dua. All right, we'll wait for the certificate.
Thank you, Dr. Michael Dua, for your participation in this very prestigious conference. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We're going to take a picture right now in 1, 2, 3. Smile. Thank you so much, Dr. Michael Dua and Dr. Alexander Seran. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you to all respected guest speakers and moderators. Now we would like to hold an entire group photo session. For this one, we would like to invite everyone, all the guests, speakers, moderators to turn on the cameras and to welcome to take a position. This photo session will be guided by Madam Dian or Mr. Sanzo and I, and allow me to guide the photo session. There will be several slides like previously, and we will start with the first one. So thank you. All right, the operator ready. We're gonna start with the first slide, yes? Okay. Okay, I'm gonna count to 3 and we're all gonna smile in 1, 2, 3. All right, thank you. Second slide, 1, 2, 3. Third slide, 1, 2, 3. All right, fourth slide, 1, 2, 3. The fifth slide, 1, 2, 3. Sixth slide, 1, 2, 3. Seventh slide, 1, 2, 3. All right, I think we are going to move forward from that. Now, I'll pass this to my partner, Aurel.
Thank you, Danny. Friendly reminder, participants are advised to fill in the registration form attached in the chat box in order to obtain a certificate and escape for Unica Atmajaya student. Ladies and gentlemen, to end today's conference, we are now going to listen to a closing keynote about artificial intelligence and bots in marketing, ethical limits of tools by Professor Dr. Joel Collett from the Department of Computer Sciences at University of Le Havre, Normandy, France. Please welcome Professor Dr. Joel Collett.
Thank you very much, dear Aurelia Grace. And I will share my, try to share. Yes. Can you see my slides? Yeah. Oh, yeah, maybe.
Yes, we can.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, good afternoon. Thank you to the organizers of ICCOMAC for this marvelous conference. And my presentation concerns autonomous artificial intelligence systems, in particular bots in the field of marketing, with the technical and ethical limits of the tools. In February 2017, Luxembourg European Deputy Madi Delvaux provided a report that proposed giving legal personality to robots, autonomous system, and was approved by the European Parliament. This were questions to the consequences of interaction both at the individual level of autonomous AI systems with users in the marketing fields. What are the motivation of chatbot, providers' motivation? How to implement AI and case-based reasoning in customer relationship management with analogy reasoning? And what is digital modeling of emotion, cognitive agents, and what ethical limits of the tools and societal aspects? On this slide, you can have a comparison of mimetic and autonomous AI. On the left, mimetic AI with knowledge-based implementation necessary, knowledge transfer from domain experts to beginners and students. And the purpose is also decision support systems that provide pragmatic answers to solve problems and to take appropriate decisions. And case-based reasoning is a feedback from the field and cases previously stored in case database and that are useful for example, clinical backtracking. In fact, on the right of the slide, knowledge is based on algorithm, big data and deep learning, pattern recognition directly from environment, and general public recommendation from population analysis. How to collect data from the web and from autonomous devices, we saw that in previous presentations, and how to provide services to the population and enhance the public knowledge to solve usual problems. So, mimetic AI to autonomous AI are very different situation of the actors and the users. That is a cognitive. You have in a mimetic AI, you have a cognitive designer and a domain expert, DA on the schema. The system is used by more or less experienced users who benefits from knowledge transfer for decision making, and the user gets an expertise-based response to solve a problem from the expert systems to, for example, to perform a diagnosis, to repair a machine, or to sell a product, and the user chose to apply or not the solution proposed by the system. On the right part of the slide, the user disappears and is replaced directly by an autonomous system, which is solved by a decision maker, which operate a knowledge base based on big data and to analyze and act on the data of the problem alone, as in robotics, and to propose a decision or action that is binding on the user, who becomes a subject, and to find a solution to his problem, and his consent becomes incidental. The use of the system allows to analyze his, her living environment and to collect personal data about his, her behavior, and to store them in clouds in data warehouse. Knowledge of content of the internet and base of cases arising from the use of the system. Investors' profits are multiple, collecting data from subjects for market researches on their habits, selecting the most profitable subjects, identifying and discard the weakest subjects. What is a chatbot? A chatbot is a software robot that can interact with an individual or consumer through a service of automated conversation that can be performed through a decision trees or through an ability to process natural language. Initially, chatbots use only a library of question answers, but AI and machine learning propose new means to analyze users' queries in order to provide appropriate answers. Chatbots are often represented by virtual agents on websites, a human image or an avatar. That corresponds to a marketing logic rationale or have a vocation of customer support before sale or after sale, and are only conversational bots. Some chatbots can take direct orders and are transactional chatbot. They belong to the conversational commerce, as we say is in a presentation. The risk of cybercrime and unintended data collection is also present. Initially, experimental chatbots announcements have been rapid and are now needed in some context as a new support channel, customer contact guaranteeing availability, absorbing peak activity, and especially productivity gains. For example, Chronopost in France offers a Leonard chatbot for parcel tracking with 83% of satisfaction rate. Chatbots in management, chatbots automatic tools directly at the service of the customer. They must demonstrate relevance, consistency, advice and solutions consistent with current domain knowledge. The risks of errors and approximation can lead to poor decision sometimes and mistakes with legal risks. Marketing use is sometimes far away from ethics and lack of relevance to solve problem of the user. The risk of cybercrime or unintended data collection is also present. What could be a cognitive agent? A cognitive agent is equipped with some features. The communication is important. The communication module is important because the first ability of a cognitive agent is the communication purpose, and the consistent internal external coordination and cooperation of what are the action of the agent is very important as well. The adaptation, selection, relevancy, and learning capabilities modules are able to select what the agent is doing, and the ability to build a dynamical model of the situation, and short-term memory of the external situation. And you have agent beliefs, set of available heuristic and facts considered as valuable in the system and applicable to efficiently complete tasks, goals, set up by the system goals. Okay, so the agents have the ability to know his self capabilities, what I am able to do. Okay, and agents have intentions and are set by comparing reflexive knowledge, what I'm doing to do, with other agents which are in the agent environment. And decision and behavior autonomy, the agents have the ability to choose to commit or not to a task, and to know if he is able to do the task or not. So this kind of agents are today easy to build. And we have also in computer science new software, customer relationship management tools that exploit patterns made of traces on internet to send commercial offers targeted to users in real time based on the evolution of their tastes, their current needs, and even their geolocation. The case-based reasoning tools could be useful to store experience in management and marketing, as we saw previously. And the big data and the semantic web allow to detect correlation, cross-section queries to understand and anticipate the wishes of customers. How how can you do that? CBR Knowledge Hub for management tools, knowledge transfer, for example. And we propose a fuzzy vector space object-oriented platform, which is based with a UML model of object classes and ontology knowledge of business domain. And a fuzzy vector space object-oriented model, which is used to provide the object of the system and to model management knowledge, corporate and business strategy, audit of companies, clinical diagnosis, marketing, CRM, information system risks. And the system is can exhibit three interfaces: the administrator interfaces that provide the manager user guide and expert guidelines, and the manager expert interface, which provide the knowledge of the systems, and the manager user, which receive advices from the knowledge hub. So here is a kind of systems of CRM based on CBR that can be built today. What are the different steps of this kind of devices? The case retrieval module, splitting the new case in computing component similarities, selecting most similar previous cases, and adaptation step, and the solving method is applied to the new case. And when the new case is applied and adapted, you can store it in a base of object cases, as we will see in a moment, and the case indexation model, evaluating the new case, representing the new case composition, indexing it, and storing in the new case in the database. This is a case-based reasoning cycle. This cycle was firstly proposed by Amott and Plaza. And here is in details, but maybe we only focus on what the agent is doing. In details, you have the different steps of the computer task done by the computer. And what is important is the computer is able to compute the similarity of the problem and goals, the environment, objects, and actors involved in the system, the reasoning mode used, and the decision taken, and how the action carried out, and what are the results of this action of the system. So all these different parts of the system is able to apply experiences of previous cases to solve new cases. This is done by analogy with case-based reasoning, that is to compare the new case C0 with all the previous cases of the database, and the program and goals, environments, the reasoning mode, the decision that was taken, and the action carried out, and the result of this actions. So all these cases could be compared at different level of granularities, and that's important because of course this slide is a bit technical, but with a fuzzy vectorial space you can at any moment compare if the problem was the same or was typical similar, and what type of reasoning we used, and what type of result we get, and how what was the result of applying this solution. So this system is able to enhance itself with the experience of previous cases. So now we will see how to deal with big data and quantitative evolution of big data and automatic indexation of the data, which are very useful, of course, in marketing and in management. Big data profiling customers and CRM of predictive marketing targeting from B2B or B2C with CBR. Business to business, to business to consumer, using big data to target the customer in real time. So CRM software uses profiles made up of traces on the net, and IP and cookies and so on, and case-based reasoning, and we previously. We have seen previously. The B2C relies on big data and the semantic web to prevent the desire of customers, solicit out prospects by phone, and retain them to make them buy. IP tracking, detection, classification, geolocation, and delivery, temporal spatial marketing targeting. And big data and predictive marketing, how to do this. Big data, data-driven marketing, machine learning, AI profiling and classification, visitors, prospects, customers, digital traces are used and sorted as a large number of prospects by scoring and clustering them. And they are sorted and that allow to know what type of customer you have, what are the main interest for these customers, and IP and cookie tracking, profiling of web, site access, social networks, allows to know who are the customers and what habits they have. Classic outbound marketing based on advertising, outdated to inbound marketing, bringing in the customer based on the viewing website, inbound funnel, as you can see on this next slide. The first steps, you have unknown people, and you can have predictive marketing with pattern matching. Then you have IP identifier protocol on internet and cookies tracking that you have unidentified visitors. But with marketing automation, AI, CBR, and scoring clustering, you can have identified visitors, and several CRM, customer relationship management, turn a prospect into a customer, and with RP, you can secure customer loyalty and prevent that they go away, and you have all the funnel allows you to have customers that remains customers. That's the important aspect of this protocol. So what are big data? And big data, people are on computers. And they leave traces on computers and on websites, on internets. And all these traces are information, of course, what is important is to know who is doing what, how, when, where, and why on the net. And of course, this guy belongs to a population, and there are also statistical studies, and you have, of course, a decision support system with person identification, with databases, And you can have algorithm of big data that can use traces and existing databases to do a re-identification, to build data from traces, and to know effectively who is doing what. And how you do that? Very easily, because if you see the method of Marcus Fabius Cantilianus, quisquid cur quomodo quibus auxilis ubi quando, who is doing what, why, how, with what, when, and where. It's very old method in the first era after Jesus Christus. And who user identifier, IP address or email, what website is visited by the surfer, identified by the HTTP protocol. Traces, clicks, and cookies allow to know the motivation of the internet surfer for visiting this website, what I'm searching on the website, and how clicks and keywords of research used by the internet surfer determine his or her interest in the visited website. With what? With a computer, a tablet, a smartphone is used, where the website gets the geolocation of the machine of the user, and when the user action, query, or click is logged and time-stamped on the website. So you can see that you know everything about the user. Ethical limits of tools. Ethical limit of tools. Individual consequences of autonomous system, liability for damage caused by robots to humans. Deficiencies, malfunctions of self-driving cars can provoke road accidents and personal injury and thus legal risks. But advices from inappropriate advices from chatbots to use can also cause damage. The legal aspects and ethics are essential here, and numerous autonomous chatbots allow an over-representation of some ideas on the web and to make them dominant in order to manipulate many people. The loss of democracy could be worse. What are the social consequences of autonomous systems? Enslaved robots, non-autonomous, already replace humans in many difficult tasks, companies, supply chain, for example, but beyond valuable contributions to overcome the handicap, exoskeleton, intelligent prostheses in medicine, and the realization of precision work, surgical robots, for example. Robots are available 24 hours a day and 7 days on 7. Autonomous systems challenge the role of humans in carrying out work in many areas and jobs. How young people will make a living in the coming years, and how will human interact with autonomous systems. Autonomous weapon systems will disturb democratic equilibria as well, and an even greater imbalance between those who can afford assistance robots and those who cannot afford them will appear. Big data and social networks, privacy and vulnerability. Social networks like TikTok, Facebook, the best known, allow users to share on internet of many personal data, videos, photos, but also personal problems, questions regarding their concerns and private lives. And users share their data with family, friends, or more distant relationships, sometimes with a lack of caution. The intransitive nature of the neighbor relation of the followers in the network makes it impossible for any user to control the privacy of his data and how to share them in a secure manner. Even if you don't use social networks because your family use it, and share data that concern you. And this data allow real-time profiling on internet of everybody. In this context of big data, this data can be exploited by a semantic indexing and by AI algorithms. Smartphones provide the geolocation of users and allow to refine targeting marketing, as we saw in the presentation of a previous presentation. The legislative means are illusory to stop profiling. Users are powerless to stop profiling. The geotagging is enabled by default on smartphones and tablets, including geotags in exchanged files. Disabling does not ensure the stop of geolocation. A law seems to be useless to regulate abusive profiling of people. In conclusion, in one hand, AI and CBR can provide new tools in management to enhance knowledge and relevance of decision, and to enhance, of course, marketing and the power of selling goods. But in the other hand, too much power in too few hands challenges the equilibrium of the world and humanity well-being, and always to the detriment of the most poor people. Thank you very much for your attention. You can see on this last slide the tools of semantic interoperability that provides what were provided by Tim Berners-Lee of the W3C consortium. And you have all the tools that are used to share data on the web. And all these data are used to profile all the exchanges of information on the web. Thank you for your attention.
All right, thank you so much, Professor Dr. Joel Kolok, for sharing us today. Ladies and gentlemen, we have arrived at the end of the ceremony. But before you leave, we would like to remind you that there is still another ceremony tomorrow where we will talk about the 30 Tahun Hidesi book launch and also the announcement for best papers. So to all presenters and participants, please make sure to attend and be on time tomorrow.
Participants are also encouraged to fill in the feedback form attached in the Zoom chat in order to get a certificate and escape for Unika Atmajaya students. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a pleasure being with all of you today. We hope you have a pleasant time at our conference. Thank you and see you at tomorrow's event. Goodbye.
Goodbye.